For nearly 50 years, one staircase in America remained absolutely forbidden. Armed guards, electronic surveillance, even sitting presidents turned away at the door. What was the Presley family so desperate to conceal inside Graceland's sealed upper floor? In January 2025, that mystery finally shattered. Archivists wearing white gloves climbed those forbidden stairs and unlocked a door that hadn't moved since 1977. Inside, they discovered artifacts that rewrite everything we believed about the king of rock and roll, including evidence suggesting his death may have been preventable. But Elvis's legendary estate is merely one chapter in a far larger story. Scattered across continents, magnificent mansions once belonging to the world's most celebrated icons now sit rotting and rejected. Properties valued at tens of millions that buyers refuse to touch, even when prices collapse to pennies on the dollar. What sinister histories and lingering darkness render these homes permanently uninhabitable? From Mike Tyson's tiger-infested compound to Michael Jackson's decaying wonderland, we're pulling back the curtain on 25 spectacular estates frozen in tragedy. The truth will disturb you. Whitney Houston's Sanctuary of Sorrow. Let's begin with heartbreak in its purest form. Whitney Houston's New Jersey estate once pulsed with a legend's incomparable energy. 12,500 square feet of pure luxury sprawling across 5 pristine acres. Every room whispered of superstar excess. A private screening room where she likely watched her own groundbreaking performances. A professional-grade recording studio that surely captured countless unreleased melodies. Even a personal beauty salon befitting music royalty. The crown jewel? An indoor swimming complex paired with vintage arcade machines. Nostalgic treasures from the era when Whitney conquered the world. Music filled these corridors, laughter echoed off high ceilings, promise saturated every corner. Then came February 2012. Whitney's sudden, devastating departure at 48 years old transformed this palace into something untouchable. The mansion wasn't just property anymore. It became physical embodiment of national grief, tragedy's permanent stain overwhelming every luxury amenity. When the estate hit the market at $1.6 million following an earlier $900,000 sale, interested parties hesitated, retreated, vanished. Who wants to wake each morning surrounded by walls that witnessed such profound loss? Who desires breakfast in kitchens where a legend once laughed, knowing she's gone forever? Whitney Houston's home stands today as devastating proof that certain sorrows become architectural, embedded so deeply into foundations that no renovation can extract them. The LaLaurie Mansion, Nicolas Cage's House of Horrors. From sorrow we descend into something far more sinister. When Nicolas Cage purchased an 1832 New Orleans mansion, perhaps he imagined himself a gentleman of Southern Gothic refinement. What he actually acquired was quite possibly the most authentically evil residence in American history. This architectural nightmare belonged to Madame Delphine LaLaurie, a 19th-century aristocrat whose name became synonymous with unimaginable cruelty. Behind elegant facades, she perpetrated systematic torture against enslaved people. Atrocities so horrific that when a fire exposed her secrets in 1834, enraged mobs chased her from the city. But the suffering she inflicted never departed with her. For nearly 2 centuries, accounts of tormented spirits have persisted relentlessly. Screams echoing from empty rooms, figures glimpsed in windows, chains rattling in darkness. Cage poured millions into renovations, installing Olympic-quality swimming facilities, constructing magnificent staircases. None of it mattered. The curse proved stronger than any checkbook. When he finally escaped in 2009, selling for $7.8 million, finding a buyer proved nearly impossible. The paranormal reputation preceded every showing. Today, the mansion remains essential pilgrimage for ghost hunters worldwide. Unexplained footsteps traverse vacant hallways. Doors swing violently without human contact. Temperature drops occur in sealed rooms during sweltering Louisiana summers. This property offers grim testimony that certain evils become permanent residents. Horrors so profound they imprint themselves into brick and mortar, refusing eviction across centuries. 50 Cent's monument to excess. Magnitude doesn't guarantee value. Rapper 50 Cent learned this lesson at catastrophic cost. His Connecticut compound defied comprehension. 50,000 square feet housing 21 bedrooms, 25 bathrooms, and a private nightclub where presumably bass shook walls during legendary parties. The acquisition price? A seemingly reasonable $4.1 million. The actual cost? Over a decade of financial hemorrhaging. When the property debuted at $18.5 million in 2007, 50 Cent anticipated swift, profitable transfer. Instead, years of rejection followed. The asking price tumbled repeatedly as reality set in. Connecticut winters demanded heating bills exceeding most families' annual mortgages. Maintenance required permanent staff. The economics simply didn't function. Final sale in 2019? A devastating $2.9 million, representing an 84% collapse from original expectations. This cautionary epic demonstrates that even substantial wealth cannot sustain certain ambitions indefinitely. The grandest displays of success sometimes transform into anchors dragging fortunes beneath waves. A Michael Jackson's Neverland where dreams died. When Michael Jackson envisioned Neverland Ranch, he wasn't constructing mere shelter. He was manifesting pure imagination into physical reality. 2,700 California acres transformed into something unprecedented. Functioning railroad tracks wound through manicured landscapes, complete with authentic train station. A 50-seat cinema flickered with magic. Carnival grounds burst with spinning carousels and towering Ferris wheels, where the planet's most famous entertainer could momentarily escape crushing fame alongside children, experiencing simple joy. This wasn't architecture. This was childhood wonder given permanent form. June 25, 2009 ended everything. The music stopped, the laughter vanished. Neverland transformed instantaneously from paradise to purgatory. Walk those grounds today, and emptiness consumes you. Animal enclosures that once sheltered exotic creatures stand as rusting monuments to abandonment. Gardens once tended with obsessive devotion have surrendered to invasive vegetation. Monthly maintenance costs exceed $50,000, bleeding resources for property nobody desires. Original listing at $100 million eventually collapsed to $31 million, a 69% surrender. Yet buyers remained non-existent. What repels them? The astronomical operational expenses? Or something deeper? The inescapable shadow of controversy forever darkening its creator's legacy? Neverland persists as more than abandoned acreage. It's a devastating monument to innocence lost, dreams shattered, and beautiful visions meeting tragic conclusions. Tommy Lee's Calabasas haunting. Nestled within exclusive Calabasas canyons, Tommy Lee's 10,000-square-foot sanctuary represented rock star living perfected. Glass atriums flooding interiors with California sunshine. Indoor waterfalls providing ambient tranquility. Rooftop terraces commanding infinite canyon views. Then unexplainable disturbances commenced. Lee's spouse publicly acknowledged experiencing phenomena defying rational explanation. Lights activating and deactivating without human intervention. Doors creaking open during midnight hours. Invisible footsteps traversing marble corridors when every room stood empty. Word spread rapidly. Soon the property's reputation became inseparable from supernatural associations. Property values cratered by millions. Prospective purchasers arrived for viewings then departed hastily, offering vague excuses. Real estate professionals struggled explaining why such stunning architecture faced perpetual rejection. Currently, the estate sits vacant. Waterfalls have ceased flowing. Once vibrant spaces accumulate dust undisturbed by human presence. Would you risk overnight accommodation where even hardened rock legends reportedly sensed unwelcome presences watching from shadows? Britney Spears, Twin Kingdoms of Heartbreak. Once upon a time, Britney Spears commanded dual dream palaces. Each now stands as silent witness to pop stardom's dizzying heights and devastating descents. Deep within Louisiana countryside rises her fairy tale castle, grand turrets piercing southern skies, enormous windows flooding interiors with golden light. Inside, Britney constructed private universes, mirrored dance studios reflecting boundless ambition, screening rooms engineered for premier events, game rooms echoing with carefree joy. That enchantment proved fragile. Today, ornamental fountains stand bone dry. Aggressive vegetation has conquered gardens once flourishing under devoted attention. Neighbors recall when music suddenly ceased, as though someone simply evaporated mid-dream, leaving only shadows behind. Prospective purchasers sense the attraction but inevitably retreat, murmuring about lingering curses or embedded heartbreak. Thousands of miles westward, her Thousand Oaks Italian villa tells parallel stories of fading splendor. Abandoned during 2019 amid Britney's highly publicized freedom battles, the estate sprawls across 20 withering acres. Swimming pools once sparkling with vitality have become stagnant basins collecting forgotten toys. Sun-bleached furniture sits askew. Manicured lawns have deteriorated to brittle yellow patches. This residence witnessed her legal struggles, private anguish, and years of captivity. Despite obvious architectural beauty, buyers consistently decline, sensing sorrow permeating every square foot. Both mansions remain suspended in limbo, haunting, unsold, reverberating with dreams and secrets of a pop legend still pursuing her own resolution. Mike Tyson's fallen empire. Step inside the crumbling domain of boxing's most terrifying champion. Mike Tyson's sprawling 25,000-square-foot Ohio compound wasn't merely residence, it was physical manifestation of unlimited power and unchecked excess. Envision bathroom fixtures crafted from solid gold, gleaming like championship belts. Picture a swimming pool so vast it could host Olympic events. Most infamously, the property featured enclosures housing Tyson's notorious Bengal tigers, apex predators sharing territory with the apex predator of heavyweight boxing. An indoor basketball court capable of seating 1,000 spectators dominated the grounds. Every surface screamed triumph, dominance, invincibility. Then came the collapse. Following Tyson's devastating financial implosion and personal demons, the mansion descended into eerie abandonment. Initially marketed at $7.5 million, the price cratered repeatedly, eventually settling at $1.3 million and 83% freefall. Yet still, buyers refused. Visit the grounds today and witness nature's patient conquest. Trees explode through cracked tennis courts, roots splitting asphalt like broken promises. The legendary swimming pool has transformed into murky green swamp, breeding insects instead of memories. This decaying fortress stands as brutal meditation on impermanence, undeniable proof that even the mightiest eventually fall, leaving only crumbling monuments to glory days that vanished overnight. Mel Gibson's abandoned paradise. Mel Gibson's concealed Costa Rican compound should represent paradise perfected. 7 opulent villas positioned between dense rainforest canopy and crystalline Pacific waters. Private beaches stretching toward infinity. 3 infinity pools reflecting tropical skies. Helicopter landing facilities enabling discreet arrivals far from paparazzi lenses. Adjacent property hosts protected wildlife sanctuaries where monkey calls blur boundaries separating wilderness from luxury. Yet presently, the compound sits abandoned behind corroding gates swaying beneath palm shadows. Local mythology circulates continuously. Some claim strange illuminations flicker after darkness descends. Others insist jungle vegetation actively reclaims guest structures, vines methodically strangling forgotten ambitions inch by inch. Operational expenses would financially devastate average purchasers. But economics alone cannot explain this profound silence. What compelled Mel Gibson to abandon this tropical Eden? Why do potential buyers flee despite millions stripped from asking prices? What secrets do empty pools and echoing villas guard so jealously? David Letterman's wilderness enigma. Concealed within Montana's untamed wilderness, David Letterman's 2,800-acre sanctuary appears frontier fantasy materialized. A sprawling log lodge commanding panoramic mountain views. 6 hidden guest cabins scattered strategically throughout the property. A vast private lake glittering like undiscovered treasure. Barns housing impressive classic automobile collections. Most intriguingly, an enormous treehouse, reportedly spacious enough to accommodate entire families comfortably, allegedly served as Letterman's personal meditation retreat. Silence here feels almost sacred. For years, this extraordinary property has stubbornly resisted ownership transfer. What invisible forces repel prospective buyers from such tranquil paradise? Some suggest overwhelming scale, simply too vast, too perfect for ordinary stewardship. Others whisper that the lake reflects more than surrounding mountain ranges, that it holds secrets of celebrities who once sought refuge here from public scrutiny. Hiking pathways have grown over with disuse. The legendary treehouse remains locked tight, guarding its mysteries. What stories hide within this peaceful wilderness, patiently awaiting someone courageous enough to listen? Nellie's Missouri Enigma. At Wildwood, Missouri's outskirts, rapper Nellie's Tuscan-inspired manor exists wrapped in legend and shrouded in mystery. Originally constructed for rapid, profitable resale, this grand residence transformed quickly into ghost. Its elaborate hallways have echoed with vacancy for nearly 2 decades. Red-tiled roofing and stuccoed exterior walls have faded beneath seasons of relentless abandonment. Grand arched entryways guard nothing except profound silence. What prevented Nellie from executing his plans? Why did countless interested parties retreat year after year, seemingly repelled by invisible barriers? In 2021, the mansion finally transferred ownership at shocking losses to a mysterious religious organization rumored to operate as secretive cult. Local atmosphere thickened with speculation about rituals possibly performed within those walls. Was the property cursed from inception, or simply awaiting ownership possessing sufficient nerve to unlock its secrets? Today, the manor exists under new enigmatic stewardship. Neighbors avoid the lengthy private driveway. Local children dare each other to peer through iron gates, whispering that Wildwood now possesses its own haunted castle, one whose authentic story continues unfolding just beyond sight. Madonna's Gilded Prison. Within Hidden Hill's exclusive gated community, Madonna's legendary mansion stands as surreal temple to pop culture royalty and, simultaneously, an unsolvable riddle. Once serving as playground for the Queen of Pop herself, this estate overflows with eccentric magnificence. Private screening facilities lined with plush velvet where Madonna once reviewed her visual masterpieces in solitude. Vast mirrored ballrooms echoing with memories of midnight choreography sessions. 7 opulent bedroom suites crafted with 5-star precision. The legendary M-shaped swimming pool sparkles beneath California sunshine while tennis courts transform via electronic controls into expansive dance floors ready for celebrations that never materialize. Most extravagant, subterranean wine cellars housing 10,000 bottles. Labyrinthine collections now gathering dust instead of appreciation and celebration. Rumor suggests that even during her reign's zenith, Madonna wandered mansion corridors alone, seeking creative inspiration within echoing silence. Currently, the estate remains unsold and untouched, a gilded cage whose lavish comforts have paradoxically become their own imprisonment. Interested parties arrive and depart intimidated, overwhelmed by maintenance demands and whispers of impossible standards no successor could satisfy. Who could possibly inhabit Madonna's imposing shadow? The mansion waits endlessly, half shrine, half specter, daring anyone to initiate its next chapter. Muhammad Hadid's Bel Air catastrophe. Perched atop prestigious Bel Air hillsides, Muhammad Hadid's ambitious palace became Hollywood nightmare personified. What commenced as audacious architectural vision, 30,000 square feet of ultra-modern excess resembling spacecraft more than residence, spiraled rapidly into scandal and complete ruin. Construction crews labored continuously, pouring concrete foundations, raising expansive glass walls, engineering infinity pools commanding views touching distant horizons. But Hadid's ambition dramatically outpaced legal boundaries. City authorities terminated the project entirely, citing unauthorized expansions and structural threats endangering neighboring properties. Lawsuits multiplied. Neighbors expressed outrage publicly. The unfinished behemoth was abandoned, half-constructed and exposed to harsh elements indefinitely. Local residents christened it Starship Enterprise, towering monument to unchecked hubris, permanent warning to aspiring titans who believe rules don't apply to them. Wind howls through empty corridors today. Trespassers report eerie structural creaking and groaning, as though the mansion itself mourns its incomplete destiny. Not even billion-dollar panoramic views attract purchasers. Here, within Hollywood wealth's long shadow, stands concrete fortress proving even ambitious empires crumble overnight when foundations prove unstable. Boris Becker's Mediterranean downfall. Beneath relentless Spanish sunshine, tennis legend Boris Becker's Mallorca estate once symbolized athletic triumph incarnate. Becker transformed the sprawling property into magnificent compound, Moroccan-inspired main residence, functioning stables, professional basketball and tennis courts, multiple guest houses, even Wimbledon championship memorabilia displayed prominently throughout public spaces. Behind ornate gates, darker narratives steadily unfolded. The property became plagued by mounting lawsuits, illegal construction citations, unpaid accumulating debts. Workers departed without rightful compensation. Legal drama eventually outlasted celebrations entirely, when Becker's financial empire collapsed into bankruptcy and public disgrace. The mansion was seized by authorities and abandoned indefinitely. Today, wild grass grows unchecked where the champion once practiced devastating serves. Vandals have left marks throughout interior spaces. The grand swimming pool serves only as insect breeding ground now. Locals whisper about strange lights appearing mysteriously after darkness falls, about visitors who arrive and vanish before sunrise without explanation. The estate stands permanently empty, crumbling monument to fleeting fortune, its silence echoing with every serve and scandal that ultimately brought it to complete ruin. Some call it genuinely cursed. Others simply shake heads and walk past, understanding that not all victories conclude with trophies held high. Steve Jobs and the battle for Jackling House. The historic Jackling House in Woodside, California once served as silent battlefield between legacy preservation and relentless technological innovation. Steve Jobs, perpetually obsessed with forward progress, viewed this landmark Spanish colonial mansion as obstacle requiring elimination, an outdated relic obstructing advancement. But the historic house refused easy surrender. For over a decade, it stood completely empty while Jobs waged bitter legal warfare seeking demolition permits. Preservationists declared it irreplaceable architectural masterpiece deserving protection. Meanwhile, decay progressed steadily. Ornate balconies crumbling, marble bathrooms deteriorating, elegant staircases warping beneath years of accumulated neglect. The estate became powerful symbol of obsession's hidden costs. Millions spent on legal battles. Years lost in courtroom struggles. A magnificent home transformed from cherished residence into ghostly monument of conflicts, fought and eventually won. Demolition finally occurred during Jobs' final year of life. Secrets buried permanently alongside him. But those who wandered its empty corridors before destruction reported persistent, unsettling sensations of being observed by unseen presences. Did historical spirits linger stubbornly, unwilling to yield before Silicon Valley's relentless technological march? Or did Jobs' own restless perfectionist energy leave permanent marks no demolition machinery could fully erase? Liza Minnelli's decaying Hollywood inheritance. Hidden within Hollywood's ancient hillsides, Liza Minnelli's childhood estate exists now as haunted memory rather than functioning residence. Constructed in 1925 during cinema's golden age, this mansion once staged legendary parties thrown by her acclaimed director father, Vincente Minnelli, and served as cherished refuge for a family positioned at entertainment royalty's absolute center. Following Vincente's death, the property became entangled in complicated legal labyrinth. Liza inherited nominal ownership, but her father's final wishes permitted his last wife, Lee, continued residence indefinitely. When Lee stubbornly refused departure despite years of negotiations, the magnificent house withered in limbo. Following Lee's 2009 passing, nobody returned to restore faded magnificence. Urban explorers describe stepping through broken gates into rooms frozen completely in time, ornate wallpaper peeling like aged theatrical makeup, grand pianos collecting decades of undisturbed dust, old film reels scattered carelessly across warped floors. Ghost stories cling persistently to these deteriorating walls. Neighbors claim hearing faint jazz melodies drifting through shattered windows during quiet evenings. Some say Liza herself refuses driving past the property, too pained by memories. This estate, once glittering symbol of Hollywood's legendary golden era, has become tattered shrine to fame's impermanence, its legends echoing considerably louder than any purchase offer daring to materialize. Courtney Love's Pacific Northwest Retreat section on this property. Graceland, the ultimate revelation. The King's Private Kingdom. Memphis, Tennessee, 1957. A 22-year-old phenomenon already burning brighter than anyone preceding him invested $102,500, nearly $1 million in contemporary currency, in a stately southern mansion. he preserved its existing name, Graceland. What Elvis Presley constructed transcended ordinary residence. This became sanctuary, palace, and sprawling personal playground simultaneously. The estate stretched across nearly 14 magnificent acres, encompassing barns, stables, and pastures where horses roamed freely. Among its most eccentric inhabitants, an incredibly mischievous chimpanzee named Scatter. Elvis dressed this simian companion in miniature clothing, orchestrating elaborate pranks, leaving visitors questioning who truly governed this peculiar kingdom. By 1964, Elvis created contemplative haven within his extravagant domain, the Meditation Garden. This serene corner, adorned with vibrant seasonal flowers, cascading fountains, and imposing white columns beneath vast Tennessee sky, provided stark counterpoint to his explosive stage presence. But Graceland possessed multiple personalities. Beyond the garden's tranquility, rooms like the Jungle Room screamed with playful excess, green shag carpeting climbing walls impossibly, furniture seemingly transported from distant exotic islands. Basement television rooms permitted simultaneous viewing of 3 programs, unprecedented 1960s luxury. Even the racquetball building contained a piano upon which Elvis performed his final haunting melodies, mere hours before death claimed him. The final day, August 16, 1977, cleaved history permanently. Elvis's girlfriend, Ginger Alden, awoke approximately 2 p.m., finding Elvis apparently resting peacefully, a common sight. But as afternoon progressed, unsettling quiet pervaded the mansion. Around 2:30 p.m., her bathroom door knock received no response. Pushing it open, she confronted horror. Elvis lay collapsed on the floor, his face displaying unnatural blue coloration. Her screams shattered oppressive silence. Joe Esposito, Elvis's road manager, raced upstairs immediately, initiating CPR while ambulances were summoned. Paramedics arrived within minutes. Desperate revival efforts continued during the frantic race toward Baptist Memorial Hospital, sirens wailing through sweltering Memphis streets. By 3:30 p.m., the unthinkable became official. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, was dead at 42. News detonated globally. Radio stations interrupted programming. Fans collapsed in public grief. How could the king, at such tragically young age, simply cease existing? Official story versus hidden truth. That evening, Dr. Jerry Francisco faced assembled press with blunt announcement. Elvis died from cardiac arrhythmia. Natural causes. Investigation concluded. For countless observers, this explanation never satisfied. By 1977, Elvis's shocking physical deterioration was impossible to overlook. Once lean and electric, he had swelled to approximately 260 pounds. Recent concerts had become unsettling. Forgotten lyrics mid-song, incoherent on-stage rambling, visible struggles simply remaining upright. Behind closed doors, autopsy revealed far grimmer truth. His heart was dangerously enlarged. His liver was swollen. His body bore unmistakable damage from prolonged substance abuse. When toxicology reports eventually surfaced publicly, they shattered comfortable illusions. Elvis's system was overwhelmed by dangerous pharmaceutical cocktails, high-potency painkillers and sedatives prescribed in staggering quantities. The piercing question haunted public and medical community alike. Why did Dr. Francisco misrepresent findings? Some speculated it was desperate, misguided attempt protecting Elvis's pristine legacy while sparing his grieving family further anguish. Others harbored far more cynical interpretations, that the cover-up protected not merely the king's name, but the very physicians who had ceaselessly supplied him with lethal pharmaceutical arsenals. The physician who enabled destruction. Enter Dr. George Nichopoulos, infamously known simply as Dr. Nick. He served as Elvis's personal physician since 1967, a decade-long relationship proving tragically fatal. In the mere 8 months preceding Elvis's death, Dr. Nick prescribed astronomical pharmaceutical quantities, over 10,000 individual pills, terrifying combinations of sedatives, amphetamines, and painkillers. The preceding year proved equally egregious. Nearly 19,000 pills dispensed throughout 1976 alone. Subsequent investigations revealed horrifying truth. During those final 8 months, Elvis received 199 separate prescriptions, averaging approximately 1 prescription every 36 hours. When confronted with overwhelming evidence, Dr. Nick astonishingly didn't deny his actions. Instead, he mounted defense bordering on surreal, asserting he practiced desperate harm reduction. His twisted logic dictated that Elvis was already inextricably trapped within addiction's grip, and controlling supply through legal channels prevented dangerous resort to street alternatives. If I hadn't given them to him, he would have gotten them somewhere else, he rationalized chillingly during testimony. Incredibly, juries accepted his audacious claims, clearing him of criminal responsibility. Yet, overprescribing shadows continued haunting his practice. By 1980, he faced renewed scrutiny, not merely for Elvis, but for disturbing patterns involving other celebrities, including Jerry Lee Lewis. Finally, in 1995, the Tennessee Board of Medical Examiners permanently revoked his license, citing dangerous prescribing patterns that had claimed lives and shattered legacies irrevocably. Revolutionary new theory. In 2020, author Sally A. Hodel published explosive research proposing radical reinterpretation. Hodel argued Elvis's death wasn't solely attributable to rampant addiction, but rather tragic culmination of pre-existing genetic conditions and chronic health issues. Conditions tragically masked and exacerbated by relentless prescription reliance. According to her meticulous research, Elvis suffered from alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, a devastating genetic disorder impacting lung and liver function, and likely possessed compromised immune systems, explaining his perpetual illnesses and medication dependence. If accurate, the entire narrative portraying Elvis as self-destructive addict might be profoundly flawed. Perhaps he wasn't intentionally destroying himself, but desperately striving to survive, managing unbearable, agonizing pain through whatever means available. His numerous hospitalizations, often dismissed cynically as merely schemes securing additional pills, might have represented genuine medical emergencies requiring intervention. This interpretation raises profound, unsettling questions. If his substance use was fundamentally misunderstood for decades, what did the Presley family truly comprehend about his agonizing condition, and what precisely were they so desperately concealing in that sealed attic for nearly half a century? Burial and the sealed chambers. Following Elvis's death, grief's tidal wave inundated Memphis entirely. Nearly 100,000 devastated fans descended upon Graceland's gates, consumed by desperate need for one final glimpse of their fallen king. His body, dressed in pristine white suit and vibrant blue shirt, lay in state for public viewing, an image permanently burned into witnesses' hearts. August 18, 1977, the funeral procession commenced. 17 gleaming white Cadillacs gliding through Memphis streets, forming royal escort befitting rock and roll royalty. Legendary figures attended: James Brown, Sammy Davis Jr., Caroline Kennedy, and shattered immediate family members: Priscilla, Lisa Marie, and heartbroken father Vernon Presley. Elvis was laid to rest beside his beloved mother Gladys at Forest Hill Cemetery. That peace was violently shattered merely 2 days later. A clandestine group attempted desecrating his final resting place, trying to steal Elvis's coffin in botched ransom scheme. They failed, damaging only tomb portions before capture. Vernon Presley, utterly crushed by this grotesque affront, made decisive, secretive decision. With police assistance, Elvis and Gladys were quietly reinterred within Graceland itself, inside the serene meditation garden Elvis himself had lovingly created years earlier. This single act transformed Graceland into impenetrable fortress. Vernon moved quickly, securing every vulnerable access point. Alarm systems were upgraded extensively. Guards were posted continuously. Key mansion portions were permanently sealed, most notably the entire second floor and, even more mysteriously, the attic chambers above it. Official explanation: privacy preservation. Elvis's bedroom and the bathroom where he died would remain untouched forever. Gesture of respect, the family publicly claimed. Over subsequent decades, that explanation wore increasingly thin. When Graceland opened for public tours in 1982, visitors explored nearly every inch except upstairs areas. Staircases were roped off with velvet barriers. Attic doors remained firmly locked. Even American presidents were reportedly denied access. Tour guides repeated identical scripted responses: "The upstairs is private," and so it remained for 48 consecutive years. Nobody climbed those stairs. Nobody touched that door. The sealed chambers became legend itself. Locked vault of unanswered questions and endless whispers. Visitors gazed at gold records and glittering jumpsuits, but eyes always drifted upward toward forbidden territory, wondering what could be so sensitive, so disturbing, that it required permanent concealment from the entire world. 2024 crisis. In 2024, tensions at Graceland exploded dramatically when a mysterious company, Nosany Investments and Private Lending, LLC, suddenly claimed Elvis's legendary estate faced imminent auction. Their allegation: Riley Keough, Elvis's granddaughter and sole trustee of the Promenade Trust, had defaulted on substantial loan obligations. News sent shockwaves through Memphis and Elvis fans worldwide. Could the king's sacred home genuinely be seized by anonymous creditors? Riley responded swiftly, filing fierce lawsuit accusing the company of fraud and document forgery, a calculated scheme designed to steal her family's irreplaceable legacy. Legal drama built toward courtroom climax. Just one day before scheduled auction, a Tennessee judge halted all proceedings, declaring Graceland a singular cultural asset whose loss would cause irreparable community harm. Strangely, nobody representing Nosany appeared to defend their claim. The ruling preserved Graceland, temporarily. But the close call left chilling thoughts lingering. What if courts hadn't intervened? What if the estate had fallen into unknown private hands? Would the attic, the most tightly guarded mystery in Graceland, have finally been forced open, revealing secrets the Presley family had fought to bury for nearly 5 decades? The Elvis Lives phenomenon. The attempted seizure wasn't the first strange drama surrounding Graceland. Since 1977, the mansion has served as epicenter for one of history's most bizarre celebrity conspiracy theories: the persistent belief that Elvis never actually died. It commenced hours after his death was publicly announced. At Memphis International Airport, a man closely resembling Elvis, using alias John Burroughs, a pseudonym Elvis reportedly employed previously, allegedly purchased one-way ticket to Buenos Aires. He wore white suit and dark sunglasses obscuring his features. Days later, a Michigan woman swore Elvis served her at a Burger King restaurant, recognizing his distinctive voice when he inquired about extra cheese on her order. What started as isolated rumors rapidly grew into national obsession. By 1979, sightings flooded in continuously. Elvis pumping gas in Oklahoma, shopping in Missouri, attending concerts disguised among ordinary fans. The frenzy reached such heights that in 1988, Weekly World News created ongoing column, Elvis Watch, dedicated entirely to documenting these eerie reports. Over subsequent years, theories grew progressively wilder. Some claimed he assisted the FBI dismantling organized crime operations, then vanished permanently into witness protection. Others believed he deliberately faked death to escape fame's crushing psychological weight. More somber interpretations suggested terminal illness diagnosis prompted choice to spend final days peacefully far from public spotlight. Devoted fans pointed toward strange details surrounding his funeral: the unusually heavy 900-pound casket, the closed casket ceremony following earlier public viewing, and most famously, the gravestone spelling Aaron instead of Aaron, a mistake, they argued, the meticulous family would never make unless Elvis wasn't truly buried there at all. With the internet's emergence, theories exploded exponentially. Entire websites emerged dedicated to proving he remained alive. YouTube videos compared Elvis's distinctive voice to a preacher named Bob Joyce, whose eerie vocal resemblance fueled intense speculation. Even now, nearly 5 decades later, online communities continue speculating actively. Is he living quietly under assumed identity? Does he secretly return to Graceland in disguise? For the Presley family, these stories have always represented delicate curses. Deny too forcefully and accusations of cover-up intensify. Maintain silence and myths spiral completely unchecked. Beneath fantastical theories lies something far more painful. These legends deflect attention from harsher realities, that Elvis's death may have been entirely preventable. Many believe he was failed catastrophically by those closest to him who prioritized profit over his deteriorating well-being. The comforting fantasy that he's still alive somewhere sadly absolves those responsible from accountability. January 2025, the attic opens. On a frigid January 2025 morning, a small, reverent team of professional archivists, hands encased in pristine white conservation gloves, commenced their historic ascent. They climbed narrow creaking stairs leading toward Graceland's sealed attic chambers, footsteps echoing eerily in space untouched since August 1977. Air hung thick with dust layers accumulated across almost half a century. A single bare bulb cast dim, ghostly illumination upon the lock as the lead archivist, with visibly trembling hands, gently turned an ancient brass key, a relic remaining in Presley family possession since Elvis's death. The door groaned open, tortured sound, as though it had been holding breath for decades awaiting this moment. As first light shafts pierced long-held darkness, profound silence descended upon the team. This was no ordinary dusty storage space. With chilling clarity, they recognized it as meticulously preserved time capsule. The space itself proved far vaster than anyone anticipated, stretching expansively across entire upper reaches of the historic house, punctuated by dormer windows shrouded beneath thick blackout curtains. Unlike Graceland's famously extravagant, flamboyant decor downstairs, the attic maintained stark simplicity: plain wooden walls, bare floors. Yet it remained strangely cool despite Memphis humidity, thanks to small air conditioning unit kept running continuously for decades by maintenance staff, without once breaching the attic's sealed threshold. Contents of the time capsule. Along one wall, dozens of cardboard boxes stood in silent formation, each meticulously labeled in Elvis's own distinctive handwriting. Labels told haunting chronological story. Tupelo 1945, first recordings, Army Days, Hollywood, comeback special, Vegas. It was deeply personal timeline, meticulously crafted autobiography of his own extraordinary life preserved in artifacts. But one particular box resonated with especially chilling weight. It bore simply one word: after, dated 1977, the year his light was extinguished forever. The teddy bear. In the Tupelo section, overwhelming emotions swept through the room. There, nestled carefully among childhood belongings, lay a tattered teddy bear, missing one button eye, body covered with patched fabric sections. But this wasn't merely any toy, it was Bear, Elvis's beloved childhood companion. Family records confirmed its significance definitively. His devoted mother, Gladys, had lovingly stitched those patches herself, using scraps salvaged from her own worn clothing. Faded floral prints still visible adorning the bear's chest and arms. During dark 1938 days, when Vernon Presley was imprisoned and Gladys and young Elvis were abandoned in desperate poverty, this simple bear represented his only comfort source. More than toy, it symbolized survival itself, and revealed a vulnerable boy who experienced fear and fragility long before fame consumed his identity completely. Gladys's Bible. From the Army Days section, a worn leather Bible surfaced, spine reinforced with electrical tape, pages softened from years of devoted use. This sacred book belonged originally to Gladys, gifted to Elvis upon his Army induction in 1958. Inside the front cover, she had penned heartfelt note urging him to cling to faith regardless of circumstances. Elvis had filled margins throughout with underlined verses, personal annotations, and quiet written prayers. One final entry demanded particular attention. Dated August 1977, mere days before his death, he had marked Psalm 23, the shepherd's psalm about walking through valleys of shadow, a haunting window into his troubled soul. Powerful reminder of the man existing behind the legend, still desperately reaching for peace that eluded him. High school yearbook, perhaps most poignant discovery, a leather-bound yearbook from Elvis's days at Humes High School in Memphis. Known then primarily for painful shyness, frequently mocked for unconventional clothes and peculiar style, Elvis rarely participated in typical teenage social rituals. Yet this particular yearbook was filled with classmates' handwritten notes, messages of encouragement, genuine warmth, and one inscription now feeling eerily prophetic. "Keep singing, Elvis, you're going places." These weren't fan memorabilia collected later. They were private treasures preserved not for eventual public display, but for Elvis himself, the vulnerable human being behind the manufactured myth. The leather jacket. The Hollywood section revealed different, equally poignant facet of Elvis's complicated existence, his suffocating struggle with fame's relentless psychological grip. Among accumulated movie memorabilia lay a leather jacket meticulously tailored for his iconic breakthrough role in Jailhouse Rock, carrying chilling secret inscription. Tucked carefully inside one pocket was small handwritten note. Wear this when you need to disappear. Elvis frequently voiced profound feelings of entrapment, inextricably bound by manufactured celebrity persona, unable to reclaim even semblance of normal existence. This jacket became potent physical symbol of his desperate yearning for anonymity, fleeting escape from suffocating spotlight just long enough to breathe freely as ordinary person. Philosophical library. Adjacent to cinematic relics lay substantial stacks of books defying common expectations associated with the king. These weren't disposable entertainment or fan magazines. They were weighty philosophical tomes exploring Eastern spiritual beliefs, profound religious texts from multiple traditions, and contemplative explorations of existence's grandest unanswered questions, including the eternal enigma of what transpires after death. Numerous pages were heavily underlined, margins filled with handwritten notes and questions, silent testament to a man engaged in deep existential searching, a spiritual quest extending far beyond the gospel hymns he performed so beautifully for audiences. A revelatory glimpse into private, introspective Elvis few observers had ever imagined existed. The confidential medical report. In the Vegas section, archivists stumbled upon something that froze them completely. A revelation piercing decades of official silence with terrifying clarity. It was physician's report dated 1974, starkly marked confidential across multiple pages. Its complete contents, out of respect for surviving family, remain sealed pending their thorough review. But the cover page alone spoke volumes, mentioning unequivocally documented heart problems and stark, urgent directive instructing Elvis to implement significant, immediate lifestyle changes. Yet the tragic historical truth: he continued performing relentlessly for 3 additional years following that damning diagnosis. This discovery lends harrowing credence to Sally Hodel's theory regarding Elvis's genetic predispositions, potentially intertwining his perceived addiction problems with deeply buried physical reality the public never understood. The unreleased recordings, perhaps the most chilling, profoundly personal discovery. Audio recordings nobody outside perhaps select few individuals knew existed. Among dust-covered treasures, archivists unearthed single unassuming box. Its fading ink label bore simply, "Practice Sessions 1976." Inside lay reel-to-reel magnetic tapes, untouched, unheard for nearly 50 consecutive years. What they contained left the entire room shrouded in reverent, mournful silence. These weren't polished commercial recordings or pristine studio takes the world recognized. They were raw, intimately vulnerable rehearsals. Just Elvis alone, voice experimenting freely, exploring gospel hymns, soulful blues improvisations, and even early synthesizer sounds hinting at revolutionary musical directions he tragically never survived to explore publicly. But one tape, above all others, stood out with heartbreaking visceral power. On it, Elvis performed stripped-down, deeply haunting rendition of Unchained Melody. No accompanying instruments, no background vocals, just raw, unadulterated power of his voice, cracking audibly, trembling noticeably, aching with almost unbearable contained emotion. Recorded mere months before he passed, perhaps premonition of impending end. It transcended ordinary music entirely. It was confession transformed into melody, a farewell wrapped in deepest heartbreak. His legendary voice, seemingly facing his own mortality directly through song. The unopened letters. Among discovered items, substantial piles of unopened fan correspondence, letters frozen in time, still sealed within original postmarked envelopes. Among them were grateful thank yous from soldiers stationed overseas, grieving families who found solace through his music during darkest hours, and hopeful young musicians desperately seeking his wisdom and encouragement. But one particular letter, postmarked 1976, stopped everyone cold. It contained desperate plea from concerned fans, begging Elvis to cancel his exhausting tour schedule for the sake of his visibly deteriorating health. He never read it. It remained there completely untouched, like so many warnings that went tragically unheeded throughout his final years. That single unread letter became chilling symbol of what might have been, had someone truly listened when it still mattered. What the attic ultimately revealed. Lisa Marie Presley knew about the attic's guarded secrets but chose with profound reverence to honor her father's apparent wish for privacy throughout her lifetime. Following her own untimely 2023 passing, her daughter Riley Keough made agonizing, courageous decision. The time had finally arrived, not necessarily to expose everything publicly, but to meticulously document what lay within for posterity. The attic didn't conceal escape plans or evidence supporting conspiracy theories as wild speculators had imagined for decades. Instead, it preserved the aching heart of a man who perhaps sensed his time was brutally limited. A man who took meticulous, painstaking care in shaping how the world would ultimately remember him. These attic artifacts revealed a dimension of Elvis no biography could adequately capture. A man of immense natural talent weighed down by unbearable isolation. He clung desperately to childhood teddy bear, his mother's Bible, and continued pushing musical boundaries even as his physical body systematically failed him. For many observers, these discoveries brought long-awaited closure. Nothing appeared random or accidental. Every preserved item demonstrated deliberate care, as if Elvis had silently curated his truest self within that attic. But for others, revelations raised deeper, troubling questions. Why were these intensely personal treasures concealed so long? And what additional materials, still potentially locked away within Graceland's unexplored shadows, might complete the story of the complicated man behind the enduring myth? Who was really inside that attic? The initial provocative question, "Who's inside?" now reveals its true metaphorical meaning. It wasn't a living person hiding within the attic. The shocking "who" was the authentic Elvis Presley. The vulnerable, complex, deeply human individual stripped completely of rhinestone-studded facade and crushing weight of his iconic crown. It was the preserved soul of a man the world never ceased loving. The scattered pieces of someone the world assumed it already understood completely. It was profound, quiet traces of the boy who existed before the king emerged. The worn teddy bear from impoverished Tupelo, patched lovingly with his mother's fabric. Gladys's Bible gifted before military service, pages filled with handwritten prayers and existential questioning. The high school yearbook containing simple, earnest hopes of classmates who knew him before fame consumed his identity. The leather jacket symbolizing desperate desire to escape relentless spotlight. The Unchained Melody recording. Raw, trembling farewell wrapped in heartbreaking melody. The unopened fan letters. Silent accusations representing a life's warnings left unheeded. This was the shocking human being concealed within that attic. A man far more fragile, considerably more complicated, and achingly more real than the world had ever been permitted to witness. And so, after nearly half a century behind locked doors and whispered speculation, Graceland's forbidden attic has finally spoken. Not with fanfare or scandal, but with quiet, devastating heartbreak. What it revealed was neither sensational exposé nor ghostly presence, rather something far more powerful. A man the world believed it knew completely, yet never truly perceived. Elvis Presley wasn't hiding from the world within that attic. He was waiting patiently to be genuinely understood. Every artifact, every carefully labeled box represented whisper from the past, testament to existence lived in perpetual extremes, of extraordinary greatness shadowed relentlessly by crushing loneliness, of a king who never ceased yearning to be heard authentically beyond the deafening noise. Now, with the attic finally opened, perhaps, just perhaps, the world can stop asking whether Elvis lives and start comprehending how he truly lived, and why he ultimately fell. These abandoned celebrity mansions scattered across continents serve as haunting reminders that even brightest fame and most substantial fortune cannot solve existence's fundamental challenges. They stand as poignant monuments to universal truths resonating with observers everywhere. The fear of inevitable decay, of being ultimately forgotten, and the inescapable cycle of life and loss that claims everyone eventually, even kings. If these hidden stories have captivated your imagination and drawn you into the mysterious world of abandoned celebrity estates, please support this channel by subscribing and sharing. Don't miss future investigations into the luxurious and enigmatic lives of the famous, and the often tragic secrets they leave behind. Thank you for watching.